Hi guys, James Not So Cleverly was interviewed by Kay Burley of Sky News about the power the DUP have to stop the Windsor Framework, which is being described as a deal. Now, the framework is just another way in which the UK government actually implements the Northern Ireland Protocol. Cleverly started the interview by insulting Keir Starmer, suggesting that he wouldn't understand negotiations. James cleverly saying this. Anyway, he was pushed a number of times on whether the DUP could scupper this deal, a deal, it seems, that was put in place to keep the DUP happy. Have a listen.
On behalf of their community.
Do they still have the power to scupper a deal?
That they will have real authority when it comes to the Stormont break. They will have a genuine say.
Do they still have the power to scupper a deal?
Well, what I really hope is they'll look at this and they will understand.
But do they still have the power to scupper a deal?
Well, look, ultimately, this is about making sure that the people of Northern Ireland are served properly. That means getting the Stormont up and running.
But do they still have the power to scupper a deal?
Well, if they don't re-enter the power sharing executive, that will be hugely disappointing. I think that won't be good news for the people of Northern Ireland. But I think this deal.
Do they still have the power to scupper a deal?
Ultimately,
yes.
We want Stormont up and running. That is something, and what I want to do, and I know you're. What I want to do is I want to give the DUP, I want to give the representatives of the unionist community the chance to read this.
Do they still have the power to scupper a deal?
I want them to.
How many times do I have to ask you?
Because I know what you want to do. You want to try.
I want you to tell me the answer.
Well,
and it's a yes or no. I'm not trapping you. I'm asking you: do they still have the power to scupper a deal, the DUP, or are they not as powerful as they used to be?
Well, you see, and that's why I'm not going to be drawn into this because this is not.
Question.
Because actually the real giveaway was the subsequent question about are they not as powerful as they used to be? The DUP are passionate representatives of their communities in Northern Ireland. They raised a number of concerns about the implementation of the protocol. We listened very, very carefully, and we have systematically gone through to resolve the issues, to make sure that the tax and regulatory environment.
We know the details. We know the details. I've just read them all out for people. Well, we went through all of those. Then you wouldn't have to. But you won't answer my question about the DUP and whether they're still powerful enough.
So you'll recognise that the Commission has moved a very, very long way from the starting point. That they've agreed things that we were told with great confidence would never be agreed.
If you won't answer that question, let me ask you the one.
What a car crash. Okay. Do the DUP have the power to scupper the deal? No, they don't. Because the deal has been done. The deal has been signed. And look, like the Northern Ireland Protocol, this is an agreement between the UK and the EU. This was designed, in a sense, to give cover to the DUP. Now, the DUP, and I've said this before, don't care about the protocol. When the protocol was originally presented, they had no problem with it. Geoffrey Donaldson, the head of the DUP, was actually saying how this is a great deal for Northern Ireland because it gives Northern Ireland access to the single market and the internal market. Then later, what happened was elections took place and Sinn Féin became the biggest party. And because they were the biggest party, they got to appoint the First Minister. And before the elections, the DUP said they would not go into power sharing with Sinn Féin. So if Sinn Féin got the ability to appoint the First Minister, they would not go into government. But they had to come up with an excuse because they couldn't just say we're not going into government with Sinn Féin. That's what they told their supporters. But publicly, they had to find some other excuse. And what excuse did they find? Well, the Northern Ireland Protocol. We're not happy with the protocol. The protocol needs to go before we can go into government. Now, they had set the bar so high that it was impossible. The protocol was not going to be removed. So the British government instead decided, okay, how do we keep the protocol but pretend that we've removed it? And they've renamed it the Windsor Framework. Now, as I've said on a number of occasions, you notice that on the EU side, there's no mention of compromise. There's no mention of complaint. We haven't heard from the Irish government saying that this has gone too far. We haven't heard from EU officials. I'm not talking about nameless sources. I'm talking about official people who are happy to speak their mind to the public. I haven't heard any complaints about how this will impact the single market or concerns. The French could have come out and said something, but they haven't. So on the EU side, everything is hunky-dory, as it has always been. The EU have never complained about the protocol, have never complained, because they agreed something, they negotiated something with the UK government, and they said, okay, we're happy with this. Are you happy with this? And the UK government said back in 2019, yeah, we're happy. Sign it. Good. Done and dusted. It was later, of course, that members of the Conservative Party and the DUP actually read it and said, maybe there's something we can use. Maybe something we can complain about. The Brexiteers talking about sovereignty, and the DUP saying, okay, we need to use this as a tool to stop us from going into government with Sinn Féin. But can they scupper the deal? No, they can't, because, as I said, the deal is done. Now, they can start throwing their toys out of the pram and complaining a lot, which is typical for the DUP. All they do is say no to everything and complain, but they have no power. I think it was really interesting that on Monday, Steve Baker from the ERG came out and said, yeah, this is a great deal. We support this. So this really threw the DUP under a bus. And I've said before how the Brexiteers don't care about the DUP. The Brexiteers in England don't care about the Union. Most of them don't care about the Northern Ireland Protocol because they don't understand it. It's just something we can use politically to, bring down Rishi Sunak, or to punish Boris Johnson, or to force Boris Johnson's hand, or to force Rishi Sunak's hand. That's what it's always been about. So the Brexiteers in England don't understand the Northern Ireland Protocol, don't really care, but they know they can use it. While the DUP now are in a bit of a fix, because they said they would not go into power sharing with Sinn Féin until the protocol was fixed. So first they wanted it removed, then they wanted it fixed. Well, it seems to be fixed according to the UK government. Is it enough for the DUP? Time will tell. But either way, if the DUP refuse, well, it's not going to have any impact on trade between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, because that's the responsibility of the UK government. These lanes, green and red lanes, which incidentally were presented in a different way, but were presented by the European Commission, I should say, back in 2021. It's interesting that now they've appeared as a solution presented by the UK government. But anyway, the EU has a tendency to allow Brexiteers to claim a victory when there is no real victory. But it's diplomacy and political manoeuvring. But it's the responsibility of the UK government here to implement this framework, not the DUP. So the DUP can, as I said, throw their toys out of the pram, they can complain, but nothing is really going to change. This deal is done. Whether we get power sharing remains to be seen. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.